Africa's largest economy to the north, Egypt, will begin testing appetite for its debt in international bond markets next week with a January 17 Dubai roadshow for a long-awaited Eurobond issuance as the government seeks to raise funds 2 months after floating the currency, the Egyptian pound. Officials want to gauge the likely response from investors before announcing the planned sale amount. Finance Minister Amar El-Ghahi said in November that the government was seeking up to $6 billion from Eurobond sales in 2017. The issuance comes at a critical time for Egypt. The central bank has been seeking to boost foreign reserves since the November 3rd floating of the pound, a step that helped seal a $12 billion International Monetary Fund loan deal and which had been eagerly sought by investors wary of returning to the Egyptian market. Meantime, in southern Africa, Tanzania has been warned by the International Monetary Fund that the country's economic policies threaten its forecast for growth in fiscal 2016-2017 to about 7%. President John Magufuli promised when he was elected last year to reform an economy hurt by red tape and corruption and start a program to develop public infrastructure. But the IMF says progress has been slow and lack of public spending is curtailing liquidity. Tanzania projects growth of 7.2% for last year, up from 7% in 2015, led by mining, telecoms, construction, and financial services. Now, sticking with the world of energy resources, let's talk about this. Total of France has agreed to buy a stake in project in Uganda from Tullow Oil PLC. That's about $900 million as recovery in crude prices accelerates the pace of deals in the energy industry. French oil major Total will acquire a controlling stake in the Lake Albert development. Total will pay an initial $100 million in cash with another $100 million split equally when the project gets sanctioned, that is approved, and when they start pumping oil. The balance of $700 million is deferred consideration used by Tullow to fund its share of the costs of the oil business. Okay, let's get to talk about the world of oil. Kuwait says OPEC and its partners will fulfill their implementation of a deal to cut output, having already announced 60 to 70% of the promised curbs, but says implementation won't be immediate, but rather a process carried out in the next 6 months. Let's talk through this market. As the market awaits OPEC and Russia's production data to assess the commitment of members to this output cutback. Desola Sumani is a research analyst with financial derivatives here in Lagos and is joining us via Skype. Desola, good afternoon. Good to see you.
Good afternoon, Bosin.
Thank you. I'm looking at oil at about $52 a barrel. Is the honeymoon over as far as this cutback is concerned?
No, the honeymoon is not. If the oil market is by technical factors, but then there's good news coming from the oil market with Russia cut production by 100,000 barrels per day. Some other form of clients we've seen Angola, Azerbaijan, Iraq, and more Gulf countries cutting their production. So we are waiting for OPEC data for January to show the other countries that have cut and how far the compliance have gone.
I'm sure you know this news as much as I do, if not more than I do here, that Kuwait says that this announcement, the full implementation, will not be immediate, but rather a process carried out over 6 months. So we have about a 6 months outlook, if you want to put it that way. What's the price within this 6 months band as we look at it?
Average, I think the oil prices would trade between the band of $55 to $60 per barrel in these 6 months because of there seems to be more seriousness to ensure compliance. I mean, there will be a meeting next week, 21st and 22nd, to see how to monitor compliance to this production deal. So I think that in the next 6 months, H1 17, I think that forecast, the consensus of forecast is about 55 to about $60 per barrel for oil prices.
So this are you hanging, or are you, a matter of a direct question, are you hanging your price optimism on the January 21 and 22 meeting in Vienna for this OPEC implementation committee meeting, that whatever they will say, whatever this committee will come out with in terms of information or data will drive this price significantly higher than 52 thereabouts we're looking at this Tuesday.
As we all know, as you know and I know, Bosin, that this oil market is very, very volatile. I mean, now the prices are trending somewhat sideways. I mean, this week it has been 55, 56 and thereabout. But I'm optimistic, I'm bullish that the meeting and the compliance you've seen so far shows some form of seriousness to see prices inch higher. However, there's some form of bad news. Bad news, yes. In the US, the oil recount has been increasing consistently for the past 11 weeks, and the week ended January 6th, it increased by four weeks. So I think that the US shale producers are also trying to take advantage of this high price environment and to boost production. There's also the likelihood that President Donald Trump, or President-elect Donald Trump, will lift up the ban on US oil exports. We could also mount pressure on oil prices in global markets.
But again, this is that we haven't heard from Russia. Russia promised to bring in about a very significant amount to the table. We haven't heard from Russia whether they're going to cut back on this. What's holding Vladimir Putin's Russia back on this commitment? I
mean, I read news recently that Russia has actually cut by about 100,000 barrels per day. Okay. So I think that, yeah, they are willing to cut, or they have already cut by about 100,000 barrels per day. So I think that they are also trying to. But again, as you said, it's a process. It's not going to be immediate. So over from now till June, July, I think Russia too will bring up comply to the.
Okay, this other Sumano, thank you very much. I'm going to take your price optimism on crude oil to lunch. I haven't had lunch, so when I go to lunch, I'm going to drink to that optimism as far as the barrel of oil is concerned. Thank you. From Financial Derivatives, Ivory Coast recorded consumer price deflation of negative 0.2% year-on-year in December, down from 0.4% inflation in November. That's what the data from the National Statistics Institute showed on Monday. The monthly report revealed soft and food and soft drink prices in the world's top cocoa producer declined 2.1% year-on-year, while housing and utilities prices added about 0.25%, and transport costs down 2.1%. Ivory Coast's economy accounts for about 40% of the West Africa's eight-nation CFA, called the Francophone Currency Zone. That's about all for today. Thank everyone for watching. I'll see you again tomorrow, Wednesday. Do have a great day, and bye for now.